Welcome back to the Book Digest. Today we are diving into a book that honestly changed the game when it comes to understanding trauma, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. The big idea here? That our bodies, they remember things that our conscious minds might try to forget.
So let's just jump right in with a really big question. We tend to think of trauma as, a bad story from our past. Something that happened and now it's over. But what if it's not just a story? What if it's something your body is still actively living through, right now?
And this right here, this quote gets straight to the heart of it. For someone who survived trauma, the past isn't just something you remember. It's something you feel right in your bones. It's like your body and your nervous system get hijacked, and they start reliving that terror over and over as if it's happening for the very first time.
So that brings us to the book's central, kind of radical idea. Trauma isn't just a problem in your head, it's a problem in your body. It's physiological. Dr. van der Kolk saw this with his own eyes working with Vietnam vets. I mean, these guys weren't just having bad memories. A car would backfire on the street, and boom, their entire body would react as if they were right back in a firefight. That is what it means for the body to keep the score.
Okay, so how does this actually work? How can our bodies hold on to trauma like that? Well, to get that, we've got to take a peek inside the brain and see what's happening when we feel threatened.
All right, first player on the team is the amygdala. The best way to think about it, it's your brain's smoke detector. It's this little alarm system that's always on, always scanning for danger. But here's the thing. In a brain that's been through trauma, that smoke detector gets super sensitive. It's like the tiniest whiff of smoke, or heck, even just the smell of some burnt toast, and it's pulling the 5-alarm fire bell.
And then, you've got the prefrontal cortex. If the amygdala is the smoke detector, this is the watchtower. This is your rational brain, the part that thinks things through, regulates your emotions. It's the part that can look at the situation and calmly say, hey, relax, that was just a car, not a gunshot. But, and this is a huge but, when that smoke detector starts screaming, the watchtower pretty much goes dark. It just goes offline. And this is the fundamental problem, right? The very part of your brain that you need to calm yourself down, that rational watchtower, gets shut down at the exact moment you need it the most. It's why you can't just think your way out of a panic attack or a trauma trigger. Your thinking system has been temporarily knocked out of commission. So all of this leads to a really useful idea called the window of tolerance. Just think of it as your comfort zone. It's that sweet spot where your nervous system is activated just enough that you can handle life's ups and downs without getting totally overwhelmed. Inside this window, you can think straight, feel your feelings, and still feel in control.
But what trauma does is it shrinks that window. It makes it way smaller, so it's a lot easier to get knocked out of it. If you get pushed above the window, you go into hyperarousal. That's anxiety, rage, panic. And if you get pushed below it, you're in hypoarousal. That's feeling numb, shut down, totally disconnected. A huge part of healing from trauma is just learning how to make that window wider again.
Okay, so that's how it works in general. But what happens when this stuff happens when you're a kid? Well, the impact can be even deeper, leaving echoes that can last a whole lifetime. We usually draw a pretty clear line between mental health and physical health. But what if I told you that the hard things you went through as a kid could directly affect your chances of getting a serious physical disease when you're an adult? It sounds kind of crazy, but there's a massive study that looked at exactly this. It's called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or the ACE study. And I mean massive. They tracked more than 17,000 adults to see if there was a link between what happened in their childhood and their physical health decades later. And the results? Honestly, they were jaw-dropping. They found that the more of these adverse childhood experiences a person had, the higher their ACE score, the dramatically higher their risk was for all sorts of major health problems. We're talking heart disease, cancer, diabetes. This was the proof. It established a clear biological line connecting childhood trauma to adult illness.
So why? Why does what happens in childhood have such a huge physical impact later on? Well, one of the key reasons is something called disorganized attachment. Imagine this. The person who is supposed to be your safe place, your comfort, your caregiver, is also the person you're afraid of. For a child, that's a biological puzzle that cannot be solved. It basically wires their little nervous system to be in a constant state of high alert, and over years and decades, that takes a massive toll on the body.
So if trauma is so deeply stuck in the body, well, it kind of makes sense that just talking about it might not be enough to heal, right? We need to find ways to work directly with the body to address that physiological part of the problem. And this is where we see two totally different ways of thinking about therapy.
You've got top-down approaches. Think of that as starting with your thoughts, like traditional talk therapy. But then the book really shines a light on bottom-up approaches. These start with the body, with sensations, and they work on calming down that haywire nervous system first.
Hey, remember that watchtower, the prefrontal cortex that goes offline when the alarm bells are ringing? Well, that's a huge problem for talk therapy. I mean, how can you talk through your trauma if the part of your brain that uses language and logic is shut down? At best, it might not work. At worst, it could actually make things worse, just re-traumatizing you.
And this is where these really cool body-focused therapies come into play. Things like EMDR, which uses eye movements to help your brain process stuck memories, or somatic experiencing and trauma-sensitive yoga, which are all about helping your body release all that trapped stress and energy. The key is they all find a way to bypass that offline thinking brain and go straight to the source, the nervous system.
Now, all these therapies are incredibly powerful tools, but the book argues that the single most important ingredient for healing is actually something much more basic, something we all need: human connection.
Think about it. Trauma's main job is to isolate you. It makes you feel disconnected from your own body and from other people. It makes you feel completely alone. So it makes perfect sense that you can't heal in isolation. Healing has to happen in relationships, safe, supportive relationships where you finally feel seen and heard.
And this next quote, man, it just captures the compassion at the center of this book. All those things we call symptoms of trauma, the anxiety, the flashbacks, the feeling numb, they are not signs that you're weak or broken. They are signs of a nervous system that did exactly what it was supposed to do. It did a brilliant job of keeping you alive when you were facing something unbearable. And that really leaves us with a final, massive question. If the cure for trauma is connection, then maybe healing isn't just about one person's private journey. Maybe it's a collective responsibility. It challenges all of us, really, to think about how we build a world, build communities with more safety, more compassion, and more connection for every single one of us.